how did we meet in the first place? So in 1999, I was running a Genesis tribute band. So this was the music of early Genesis, the Peter Gabriel period of the band, and we needed a new singer, so we auditioned Tony. So he joined the band in 1999, and we've worked on and off on that project ever since, doing UK tours and such. During that time also, Tony's had a successful career with his albums and also with collaborations with other artists, and I've made periodic contributions to those on keyboards. And the other thing we'd done as a studio project was that we had done a collection of Peter Gabriel songs recorded together, and I guess that kind of sets a bit of a template for doing this album in terms of the way that we worked together on that one.
We had just finished Excellent Words, the Peter Gabriel tribute album that we did. We did it originally back in 2007, and we rehashed it and remastered it and recorded 2 or 3 more songs, I think it was. And one day I just said to Doug, how do you feel about doing something original? A whole new, an original album. And he said, that would be great. And that was it. And he sent me his first idea, which was kind of something that he had in mind for a solo album that he wanted me to sing on anyway. And he sent that across, and that was the start of all the trouble.
Okay, this album came about because the tribute band had been inactive for a couple of years, but me and Tony had continued to work on occasional projects together, one of which was a re-release of the Peter Gabriel album that we had done some 10 years ago, and we recorded a couple of new songs for that. And I think the genesis, pardon the pun, of the album came then because we started recording together, and then we started to seriously talk about making an album together of original music. And also at that time, I had been experimenting on a solo album and had a few ideas in the can, so to speak, but hadn't finished any of them. So the album actually started when I sent one of my sort of sketches for a song to Tony. It was the song which finished up being Making It Great Again on the album. And Tony immediately came up with some excellent melodies and even some lyrical ideas, which finished up going back into the song. So that was how it came about, really. It was at the end of the last bit of recording we did, and then as soon as we got started with it, it was clear that we were working pretty smoothly together, and the songs came pretty quickly.
Well, Doug would send his initial ideas across, and I would sort of ad-lib a melody over the top. Quite often, as I was doing so, I'd kind of some sort of lyrics, just off the top of my head, and send it back to Doug. Doug would quite often incorporate some of the lyrics that I used, and then finish off the lyrics and send it back, and then I'd build on it again. I think it was about a 4 or 5 stage process, and it was just sort of swapping the files back and forwards, and then ultimately finishing up with the finished product, and then I would sort of produce it a bit, and yeah, that's really how we did it.
Okay, so the method that we adopted for most of the songs, there are actually 10 songs on the albums, which are 9 songs and 1 instrumental piece. And although there are a couple of exceptions, we did actually develop a method for doing this. The exceptions are Making It Great Again, which I had sort of at least 50% of that down already, including a rudimentary chorus. And also Leave This Town, which was one of Tony's compositions, which he had mostly completed, and I just added piano, organ, backing vocals, bits and pieces to it. But it essentially is the same as Tony originally imagined it. The rest of the songs, we had this kind of 4-step process, which was unusual, which was I would start with a backing track and some of the musical ideas. I would give that to Tony, and Tony would improvise melodies on it, and also some lyrics would be improvised, and a surprising number of those I finished up actually using in the lyrics that I wrote. So he would pass that back to me, and I would write lyrics based off the back of that, and then I would pass that back to Tony in the final stage of the process, and Tony would add other instruments, so he would add additional keyboards, guitars, bits and pieces like that, flute, didgeridoo, kettle drum, military cannon, that sort of thing. And he would also add his vocals, backing vocals, and the final stage of the process was to do the production work to make the song sound as good as they do on the album.
But from the outset, we wanted the album to be an album of songs, 4 5-minute songs that had strong melody, a strong song structure. We didn't want to do too much of the atmospherics, orchestrally stuff. Although we do that a bit on some of the tracks, 1 or 2 of the tracks. There are moments of that, but yeah, we wanted it to be an album of songs. 10 songs on there, and I think they're sort of accessible, pop, electronica. You can certainly hear the influences. I think you can hear the sort of, dare I say it, the proggy elements in there. But we didn't set out to sort of, to avoid anything like that. I mean, there are moments of prog. There's Mellotron in there for a start, and there's this song in 7/8. So yeah, but I think the focus was really on songs rather than big long epics.
In terms of what the album is like, I would say that musically, it's certainly you can hear our various influences on the album. I would describe it as adult-oriented rock stroke pop. It's got a strong electronic influences. We use a lot of synthesizers, sequencers, and that sort of thing. You can also hear traces of our prog rock heritage that comes out in the odd place. You can hear quite a lot of things like Sting, Peter Gabriel, Seal, those kinds of artists. Probably doesn't sound a million miles away from some of it. But I think what finishes up is something that doesn't really sound like anything else, so we're kind of quite pleased that you can hear the influences, but it's its own thing. Lyrically, I wouldn't say that it's a concept album, but I think if aliens visited Earth and wanted to know the things that were concerning middle-aged men in 2019, you could probably get a picture. It's a kind of it has a magazine stroke approach to the lyrics, I would say. So there are contemporary issues there, such as we look at fake news, we look at the rise of right-wing populism, of urban obsessions, technology, all kinds of things. So I would say it's a slightly magazine approach to the lyrics.
It's a fantastic album. No, seriously, it's. I'm really, really pleased with it. Quite often when I make an album, I never listen to it once it's made. I make it and then let the baby out into the big wide world and see what happens. But with this one, I have listened to it as an album to listen to. If I'm looking for something to play, I'll play it, because I think the songs are really strong songs, and it's been such a joy to work with Doug on this. We've had so much fun doing it, and I really like the way it sounds, and yeah, very, very proud of it.
How do I feel about the finished product? I think I have done original projects, all of my musical life, but I think the combination of working with Tony, who is able to give it such a professional finish, also working with Esoteric, who have been able to help us with some really good artwork and publicity, I think that has made it on a different level to things that I've done before, certainly, and I'm absolutely delighted with the finished product. I think it sounds fantastic. I know that sounds conceited, but it's not necessarily down to me that it's got so much polish and things. I think that could be to the work of Tony, but certainly of all the original projects I've ever been involved with, this has been the most satisfying and a huge amount of fun, and very happy with the finish.
Well, we never really stopped writing. We're still, even when we finished the album, we still continued to write. So I think it's inevitable that there will be another album at some point, but I think the first thing to do is to get this out into the big wide world and see what they think of it. But yeah, I think it's definitely on the cards that we're going to do another one, because we had so much fun with this and it was such a joy, and I think we're both very proud of it.
Okay, so what happens next? Well, obviously we will have to hire private security to make sure that none of our fans get anywhere near us, because like all successful artists, we follow and attract the fans while we're on the way up. As soon as you get there, then you just get rid of them. They're disgusting. So we'll be doing that. Probably going into rehab. That's what usually happens. Now, on a serious note, we really enjoyed it, and if there's interest in this album, I think we would definitely like to do another one. And one of the interesting things is that we are still writing music, so there is music that's not finished in the pipeline at the moment. So I think after a while we'll go back to the grindstone and maybe make some more music.